Okay, I guess I'm live because I just received a notification from YouTube, and so did the 100 something subscribers. Yeah, I'm setting things up. I am publishing this live stream for anyone to watch because, and hey Virginie, because, well, it's gonna be my yet another monthly Patreon template. Something's wrong with my Patreon, you know, with actually not with my Patreon, but with my internet service provider. I cannot log into Patreon from my computer. It just never loads, and it used to work a few days ago, but for the last week, I can only access Patreon from my phone, or I have to share my mobile data with a laptop or something to be able to check on my Patreon or make posts. So not sure what's happening. It's not down. It's just down for my ISP. So I'm working on some client assignments, and I realized that for one of the clients of mine, I need to build um, a tool to merge contacts. So they run an address book, and they import contacts from different data sources. So far, it's just one data source, but I'm trying to solve for a general case here because eventually they will replace that data source with something else and then add something else. And it's quite a universal task. Actually, I've done this. I've been doing this specifically on a table by table basis, right? So I was making all these formulas to merge rows together. If blank from record A, then use the same column from record B, combine these together, find the references, replace. I've been doing this like manually all the time. I decided it could be a good moment to try and make a template that will be like pluggable into whatever tables you may have. So I'll spin up a new Codadoc, and most likely I feel like at some point I will resort to making a custom pack and I will resort to doing some black magic. So let's start with some to do. The first step is gonna be, and I hope you can see it well, I'm not gonna tweak my zoom, I'm gonna keep it like this. So get some sample data, yeah, ultimately to play around with. Make a helper, actually no, yeah, make a helper table to merge a, oh, can you have arrow A, B, or actually keep A. Yeah. Then the thing that do I have my tablet around? So here, let me quickly find where I put it. Oh yeah, here. I want to draw you how uh, generally speaking, how I see it. So this is record A, this is record B, and there is an interface. Basically, if doesn't matter if it's actually this is like super tricky because I want to have it in a. It is rather easy to have it in a non transposed way, but what I'd like to have here is like we have the properties, name, last name, age, tags, and maybe something else. We have the record A, we have the record B, we have the result or something, and we have buttons here to copy value from here, value from there, and if here the name is like Paul, here is Paul, the result is Paul, it's merged already. Then we have last name Daniluk, and here is nothing, so this button is automatically clicked. It becomes Daniluk. And age, here it says 29, it gets merged in here as 29. So in the end you have the result, and ultimately we don't even have the result, it just copies from B to A directly, but it looks like this. And with tags it should then, I don't know, list lookups, and here it should list some lookups, and in the end it should, yeah, just have 3 lookups. But now that I'm drawing it, I realized that I cannot have different. It would be so easy, it would be much easier if Coda supported transposed tables, where you would have records on the as columns, and then you would have properties with different data types as rows. It would have been much easier. Coda does not support this, so we can either simulate a table but have these all as text values, and we will lose on this lookup styling. Probably we will just have the at something. Actually, I'm wondering if that is the case. So let's test. Let's just test. Yes, so we have the table. We have text values. Let's say we make a button that should copy 1, 2, 3. That should copy in the row. Did it? Oh yeah. Let's say in column 2 we want to paste the list of references 1 and 3. Yeah, it pasted the references, but it never applied the lookup. And let's say here the text is just some text and 1, 2, 3. But if we use this as a lookup, well, it has these red things, but ultimately oh, I didn't even have to. Oh, cool! I didn't even have to. I didn't even have to change the column type to lookup. It automatically pulls in the lookup pills. Okay, okay. This actually may work. This actually may work. I mean, in the on the visual side of things. So yeah, this is ultimately what I want to have. I want to have some sort of a merge interface where you can you cannot really edit right here, but because yeah, we won't have the editable By the way, what if I add something here? It stops being the list of references. Okay. By the way, with this new editor, copy just stopped working properly. Anyway, so yeah, we make a transposed table of properties. And the simplest way to do this is we grab column IDs by hand. We populate column A and column B with black magic. We make buttons to copy value from B to A with black magic, and ultimately we grab column IDs through a coda pack. Additionally to merging data on the rows themselves, we also need to be able to find, and that's not so automatic, but this is something that we can still have some scaffolding for. Some workflow to replace references. So wherever we have like tasks and we have like two polls in our system, and we decide that we want to get rid of the second poll because it's a duplicate of the first poll contact, but we have some tasks assigned to poll A and we have some tasks assigned to poll B, we need to run the logic to reassign things from poll A to poll B. And I don't think this can be automated with Blackmagic or whatever, but this can be a set of instructions or some pre-made UI pieces to facilitate doing that. You would just have to plug formulas differently. Yeah, ultimately, this is the plan. So let's start with the first thing, and I'll try to run without long breaks this time. So I'll try to tackle this in one go. Let's get some sample. Oh yeah, and somewhere here we also need to make automate searching for duplicates. Yeah. So right now we can manually select, okay, merge A and B, but then automate searching for duplicates, and ultimately automatically merge duplicates unless there are conflicts, which can also be done through that interface, or we could try and come up with a formula that will not even populate that interface unless it's absolutely required to do so. So we can maybe calculate that there is no conflict between just a sec, something important comes into my mailbox. Yeah, Coda is sending me some clients, and the fun fact is, yeah, sometimes I feel like I have a lot of clients, but then no one comes to me with the tasks actually. So I signed 2 contracts. I thought I would get myself busy, and then nobody came to me with the actual workload. So I have like 2 engagements that I don't have anything to do for them because they never came to me with any tasks. So I decided that from now on I'll be not just charging hourly, but I'll also be making minimums, so 10 hours a month minimum, and it's an advance payment. So before I schedule anything for any client, they have to pay me a worth of 10 hours, and then in the end of the month, it either I do work for them and I charge for the amount of hours I did for them in that month, and the 10 hours they stay, like the anyway, so something like that. Khalid Zamr asks, what was the canvas column that was inserted when I added a table? So I am on the editor and canvas, new canvas and the new editor beta access, and you can request it, I think, through the Coda community. It's in the, it's somewhere in the, I don't know where it is because it's sorted by activity and not by the announcements made, but you have, actually Virginie, maybe you remember it better, because yeah, it's somewhere in the community. It's the block party, and somewhere around, I think somewhere in there is the way to request access to the new editor. And if you click you're interested, the editor beta, you have canvas layout. So Coda is bringing multi-columns to Coda, right? So you would be able to put things in multiple columns. Like here I can make it a 2-column, and then I'll take this, drag here, maybe take this, drag here, and so on. So this is the new thing that's coming to Coda. And another new thing that's coming to Coda is the canvas layout, which is basically pages within rows of the of other tables. So these are, well, as like separate pages. I'm not sure I'm a fan of this feature that much, but it's been a very asked one because people are coming from Notion and they miss the fact that every row is a page on its own, and it's not really that, but each row can have a page on its own or multiple pages on its own, and so on. So this is what's coming to Coda. I think it's going to be used mostly as a notes field with the ability to bring in tables and charts right in that notes field. So the canvas itself, well, I think it shows it in the context of the row details. Well, like Notion does, right? So that's the thing that's coming to Coda. But that's not what we are doing here in this particular demo. Even though I thought of using multi-column layouts to, let me see if I can find it, because that's something I recently did. Maybe it's here. So I thought of building a merge interface with multiple columns and then some buttons between to like pick left, pick right, pick left, pick right. I realized this could look nice, right? And you could just reuse the detail layouts. You wouldn't have to resort to black magic, but I would have to first create, like, let's say there's 20 columns on the contacts table. I would have to manually create 20 buttons. That's one thing. Another big problem is trying to align them visually with the fields. And let's say there's the column that suddenly gets multi-line and everything just breaks apart. You don't have a way to properly align these things together. So this falls apart a bit. You could use a single layout, sort of. Oh, and I actually thought of maybe doing it like this. So I would have a column from like value from the left, value from the right, because then another value from the left, another value from the right, and then buttons between them, and this would actually be immune to some properties taking more vertical space than the other. So the next set of rows would come like aligned, right? But this, again, this is a problem because you have to then create 2 columns per each property from the contacts table. There's no way to automate that. And then again, you have to create buttons and put them on the layout. And this is not what I wanted to do with my automatic solution here. So where am I? Where was I? This threw me off the track a bit, but hell, this looks nice. I think eventually we will be able to do something nice with a setup like this, because I really like the aesthetic of how this 3-column layout looks. You have something on the left, something on the right, then some buttons in the center. So maybe in the end I'll use it somewhere, because this does look nice, but just not this time. Okay. Yeah, let's start with getting some data. And honestly, I need to find some random someone from Coda sent me the generatedata.com, and let's have these things and probably generate them as CSV. And for 5 contacts is plenty, and I can copy. I cannot just paste it. I need to I have to select a file. I cannot just okay, can I save it? I have to create it manually. Anyway, I think it's easier to just make it able, because that's another way of doing this. Doesn't want to paste it like this. It used to work though. Just a sec. Okay, I think I'll just, yeah, I'll create a file. I'm not sure what the undefined is, but okay. So data CSV. I do the import. I select the file from data CSV, and okay, this apparently imported the thing. So that's our contacts. Okay, I don't know if you can hear any noise, because my fiance came home and she's on the phone, and this mic may be picking a little bit more than it should. I'm not rocking the label now. So it's the name, it's the phone, it's the email, zip, region, country, address. Let's say I want to make, the copy of Barbara. I make a duplicate. this Barbara does not have a phone, this Barbara does not have an email. Let's have it something like this. Next, we have some sample data. We make a table. Merge the records. So I think at this point we will have the HLP records merger. Record A keep, record B merge and delete. Make them both the lookup from contacts, and this is something that a person then has to do. And we want to merge this Barbara with this Barbara. So the logic of detecting duplicates, that's gonna be like a separate module, a separate step. So far, we just need to know that we have a record 1 and a record 2, and we want to keep this one, and we want to take all the data from this one and merge it into this one, and then ultimately delete the second Barbara. You can, make this collapsible just so that it does not take much space. And add row, we don't need this because this is a singleton. This is a singleton helper table. So a singleton table, I'm calling things that only have one row. They are designed to only work with one row. It can be referenced by the @reference, by the handle. So it does not make sense to have multiple rows here yet. Maybe we will reuse this table to pick all the duplicates, right? All the duplicate pairs to merge them one into another one by one. And now we need some interface to list all the properties from here. So each property has a column ID, right? We need to, and simply because I want to have it not as a vertical thing, because, well, we could have it as a vertical thing, right? So we could have DB contacts. Let's make a view of DB contacts, and we filter it down to this row is either HLP record merger record A, HLP record merger record B. So it's either this one or that one. It's this row in the list of this and this, right? And we have a long horizontal table, and it's okay because it's typed. But where do we place the buttons now, right? To merge one property with another. We don't have any way. We don't have a place to place these buttons. We cannot put a row and a button here and a button here, like use the top value, use the bottom value. The best we could do with this thing, we could have something like apply. We could just have one button to automatically apply things from, automatically apply things from row B to row A. But if something is not blank here, then keep it in the row B and ask the person to manually go through this pair and manually copy and paste things over. And actually, this could be a nice idea. To do it like this without the transposing thing. So even if the actually, you know what? Maybe let's do it this way. Maybe it's less exciting, but but it may just work. The only problem is that we still need to um, first know the column IDs, right? Because let's say I have a button that merge B into A if blank or if the data is essentially the same. So what we can do, we modify rows, let's say phone, and we set it to phone if blank record B phone, right? Right. So this is what we do. We merge. Oops. I think we took the whole column. So record A phone. But if it's blank, then we take the record B phone. Well, yeah, we could make it, but it's basically the same as just swapping the record A and record B. So there is no need to bring in the complication of these things. We could just have something like a button, and we may eventually have it something like this, a blank label, and the action would be this row record A, actually just this row, modify rows, record A is gonna be record B, and I think it's gonna work. Record B is row record A. And let's simply sort. No, we cannot just sort it like this, but we can though. So this row switch, if it's the same as HLP record A, then we say A. Record B, then it should say B. Say nothing. And we can filter for column 8 is not blank, but that's another story, right? And we sort by what is 8. And if we swap, this thing now swaps. So we can decide which one to, well, use, which of the Barbaras to use. Again, not sure if this then ends up in the final interface, but let's just roll with it. And yeah, this thing now merges. And another thing that we do is that once we have the thing merged, we clean up. Actually, let's do this later. The cleanup, let's do this later. What is the code? Let's look into the code of the action here. This is our action. What it does, it modifies the row, and here is our we have this action, right? We need to read into it because this has this formula piece that modify rows. We need to pretty much let's remove the unnecessary new lines just so that it's easier to read this formula. The column we take so we modify rows. Here's the column. Here's the here's the record that we modify. It references the row column. Basically, we need to keep these to generate these pairs. Let's take this. Let's this is the table ID. This is the column ID. The name is irrelevant. Actually, it's just for the display. This is again the table ID. Oh no, we get the yeah, we could do this actually, create a separate tracker. The only problem with that approach though is that it's gonna be well, first we'll have to probably so there's a few things with it. First, it will have obviously a created by, modified by, created on, modified on, so we will not be able to retain the original created on, created by, modified, and so on. So that's as well as the activity, right? It does not copy over. So we will essentially, by creating a new row and deleting the old two rows, we will destroy the edits, the activity, and the comments on the original thing. Why I was thinking about merging B into A, because usually you want to run this merger right after inserting data from somewhere. So my client, they try to merge lists they have in MailChimp into whatever contact book they have in Coda, and they want to merge tags. So each contact has some set of tags already encoded, and they have some set of tags coming from MailChimp. There can be some address info in MailChimp that's not encoded. So the idea is that record B will most likely have no history, no activity. It's a freshly added record to our system, so it does not. It's not a problem if we delete it, right? If we destroy it, we take the data from it, we populate record A that we want to keep, along with all the added data, and destroy the record B, and that's why my thought process was like this. I don't know. You can tell me if you have some other reservations. It would be easier, yeah, to create record C probably, and then replace all the references to record A and to record B. But the use case I was thinking about is, yeah, keep A, delete B. Okay, let me try and make sense of this. So yeah, I want to automatically replace all columns. So let's maybe manually just pick column IDs. And if I have some time and I'm not super hungry, I'll probably write some pack formula to look into the table. And as I'm getting hungrier, I'm actually thinking that maybe I'll have to make a break eventually. So let me make sense of it, because right now it's a bit problematic for me to read this code. I'm on stream, I'm very nervous. Let me not nervous, but still. This modal name actions, and now we have the actions basically, and the actions is type panning and evaluation, and the formula is the important piece. So let me just we modify rows of record A. This is the column descriptor. This is we take the reference from column A, so this is okay. And here we try to here is where actually here is the grid ID, actually the one that we care about. And here is the column ID that we care about. So grid ID, column ID, grid ID, column ID, and if blank, we take record B. This is grid ID, column ID, but we read it from record B and not from record A. Great. So we are interested in generating these things. Oops. Now for each of the column ID split formula, map current value with name current column ID, and we generate format of modified column pair. We set the grid ID and we set the current column ID. And once we get our list of, so this produces us a list of populated pieces of code, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, we run a formula map over each of these items. So each of these items becomes this result, this result, this result, this result. We populate a column ID with a different column ID. And we actually could, yeah, we could just delete this thing so that it's a blank thing. We don't care about this one. It's most certainly not going to be phone for all the columns. And we join this by a comma so that it's one piece of code. And what we have to do now is so this is just something that we used, and actually this is our action code. We replace everything we have here in modify rows template, modify compare template. We will externalize these eventually. We have our content, we can combine our action back. Format action code template, modify column content. So we have our full action here. Hopefully it still works. There may be some problems with dollars and such. I remember there may be some issues with that. So yeah, we took this, we replaced it with, it might have eaten some data. We need to closely examine if everything is correct. Okay, I guess the new lines somehow mess it up. So let's not. Oh, it does not like the dollars for some reason. Wondering why. Why is that? Probably used for something. Let's run a regex and replace this with an actual slash and dollar and see if this validates properly. I'm not getting what it does not like. This is a proper string, so uh, um, yeah, perhaps it just doesn't like all those new lines, and that's it. So let's maybe replace every new line with nothing. Yeah, finally. Finally this thing is valid, so let's parse JSON, and we have an action that's not really a control object. We need to parse JSON. We need to wrap this thing into yet another bug, by the way, for the editor. It replaces quotes even if the code formatting is selected. So we wrap it in an object, and then we can deref object by the name of object get our action. So this is a constructor action, and all that's left is to wrap it in a button. So, and it's not a button, it's a actually, do we have to make it a button formula, or can we just run actions this role constructed action? Expecting a close parenthesis. Seriously? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the grid ID. Sure. Grid ID is this one. Table ID. Nice, unexpected errors. Invalid write to column with a formula. Are we... did I use this one? As for y... yeah, I guess I just used an extra column. Oops. Where is the debugger? Does not tell us anything really. Um, which column? No idea. Let's give it some name. Maybe it still wants us to have some name. Well, it's not the problem with the action code, but something with the column IDs. Let's take it back and just have one column ID. Correct. It's oh yeah, that was the name. Okay. The second column. It works. It works, right? So let's take the third column. It works. So what is the troublemaker? It's this column with the underscore. Hmm. Oh yeah, I guess I just I removed like one character from some column ID. Bam, bam, awesome. So this thing, we can do things like this. Um, and yeah, we can do things like this. So already this is capable of doing the merging. Yeah. The two interesting, I still kind of would like to have this sort of the UI where I would have things side by side instead of one long list of things. And another thing I would really like to have is these column IDs pulled in by the pack instead of me having to write them out. So that's another thing. And the third thing is I would like to, so okay, this has something like Peru and this would say Ukraine. I would like to highlight issues. I would like to be able to highlight things that are still not the same, so that a person can go and manually choose what to do, keep Ukraine or replace it with Peru, for instance. So this Then if it's an array of things, I would like to do the list combine of things, to do the list combine of things. And ultimately, it's a question to you. What is the more interesting piece to tackle while I'm still on the stream? I think I have something like half an hour left before I go and have some lunch. And I don't know if I then continue from here or I'll host a separate stream to actually build my ideal interface. So I'll just go on a break and get back and keep doing this. But what would you like to see in the next half an hour? Either me trying to get the column IDs through a pack, so make a pack for this, or trying to resolve. How did I expose the code? So this is I have a video about this. I don't remember if it's public or it's unlisted. I shared it in the community. So there is this trick of how do you expose what's in the object. There is a handy formula merge where you can pass a control object like a button, a slider, a whatever value to it, like the swap button. And you can pass multiple things. I think it has some internal meaning, like merging multiple objects into one object. But the thing is, when you pass a control object to it, it results in an object that then has all these nested objects, right? So this is a JSON that ultimately powers the control. So it's how the control is stored in the Codadoc. And when you do either to text on it or just add a blank text value to it, it turns it to, it stringifies the JSON, right? So that you get the actual object behind the control. So this is the object behind the swap button. Actually, it's not the object behind the swap button, but it's the object, the action behind the action of a swap button. So the actual object of a button has more to it. It has the formula for disable if, it has a formula for label, it has all these settings. You don't get them. So apparently it only unearths the first parameter or something. So these are, if you wish to see the whole descriptor of the whole button, you have to do it through digging into the doc file that gets loaded in your browser. It's a JSON. It's also a JSON. I don't have it here, but it's also a JSON that you can parse. You can find raw data. You can find all this in there. But it's enough. You get the action. So you have the action code. It uses this $2 notation to declare references to rows, row columns, cells, and so on. And once this is plain text, you can replace pieces of it, and then you can turn it back into, you just have to wrap it in some object. You parse it back into an object, into an action, right? So, but an action is a value at the key object. If you don't do this, if you just try to parse it like this, it will parse it into regular objects, but it will not turn it into a Coda control object. But if you wrap it in this, if you wrap it in an extra object, it will ultimately parse the internal things as Coda objects. And then you can use the ref object to read the value at the key object and get the actual action object out of it. And then pass it to a button or do whatever. And yeah, this doesn't have to be a button. This could be a reference that gets turned into JSON and back into a reference. Or this could be like anything. Some things will get lost in translation, but references and control objects get turned into code and then back into references using this idiom. So ultimately, what would you like me to do now? I think the interesting part would be to try and leverage packs and see if we can get the column IDs given the grid ID, whether we can get column IDs. So we have Coda API. And I think when we get a table, we have oh yeah, we can list columns. We can see if it's a formula or yeah, calculated is true or not. We have the metadata about columns. So let's spin up a REST client to try, and yeah, let's spin up. I just need to generate myself an API key, so I'll take this into the second screen. I'll go to the account settings. Once again, where is the API? I need to use authorization, right? A bearer and the API token. And I inserted it in the headers. Oh, and I probably should also insert things like content type application JSON. And columns get columns. From the doc ID, this one. And the table, let's use the view, or actually the table. Or let's use the view because I want to be able to limit what columns should be merged by the view here. Bam. We have our name, phone, email, zip, region, country. So we have our column IDs through a simple request like this. And we know that these are calculated or not calculated. So it has calculated true for columns that are actually calculated. And another thing that we can do here is we can set the limit. Default is 25 columns, so I guess we can set it to 100 or something. It should be enough for the contacts table. Limit is 100. Okay, I need to make a pack to read this. To make a pack, I'll go to another environment where I actually have the packs SDK enabled. I have the Pulse, so I have my workspace. I'm only wondering if this doc let's move it to Pulse docs, and I have something like pack tests folder. Again, the packs SDK is not yet publicly available, so you probably won't be able to replicate these, but I can just show that I hopefully I can get some intimidation away. So let's make a new pack. And let's add wondering if the token, where do you set the token? Because frankly I don't remember how do you authenticate. Say user authentication type header bearer token. What do you have? What else do you have there? Coda API header bearer token, and it wants me to add something to it. Let's consult the reference. Oh, great. Awesome. None of the packs require authentication, apparently. According to the docs. Um, Okay, I guess this is not for the system authentication, this is for user authentication, and the pack will require me to generate a token for it. Okay, I guess I still need to add the network domain. Mm, and I add a formula, get column ID. Do I make string array? No. The name is get column IDs. The description is get column IDs of non-formula columns from any given table. The parameter is view ID, or well, result type is array with items, and the executed function is gonna be context fetcher fetch. So let response gonna have fetch. Yeah, I'm typing method. What doesn't it not like? Oh yeah, I forgot to specify the object. And Khalid, have you had a chance to play around with packs already? Let's make two parameters though, view ID and doc ID. Yeah, it's an interesting SDK though. I think they designed it pretty interestingly. I'm actually not even a junior coder when it comes to JavaScript and ECMAScript and so on, because I I used to be a Java coder. I did Android stuff, and front end not so much. So I'm not familiar with the new syntax. Last time I did any JavaScript, uh, things like uh, things like Backbone.js was still relevant. Marionette.js, does that ring a bell? Angular was just in its cradle, and so was and React was not existent. So yeah, my knowledge of JavaScript is a bit stale. Uh, and And we need to, return need to iterate over these things. So best thing to do, I guess, is to spin up a console and just play around with the console. Items. For each of the items, we have the if calculated. If item is calculated, and if it's present and calculated, then what do we have? Result. Push item ID. I guess that's gonna be my code. And I guess I calculated different things. So if not calculated, then we have our setting. Okay, I even had it right on the first try, on the first try, right? Awesome. Let's call this a column reflection pack, because maybe I'll use it later as a doc reflection, as a pack to get data about the doc, such as columns, metadata, and something. What is wrong with it? This is new. I guess I'll just need to re-enter the pack and try to build it, and maybe this time it will work. This happens sometimes to the pack builder. Yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna test it here. I have a doc in here, right, in the context merger. And given that I need to open this doc as that person who has access to this doc. And now I have to use this pack here. Where's the packs, doc reflection pack, make a token. We can add a restriction so that the token is only created for this particular pack with ID 10250. Now I can go back to my normal account. I have the pack connected, I can use it. So get column IDs. The doc ID is gonna be this document URL, the last 10 characters, and the table ID is gonna be grid ID. Will the magic happen? The magic doesn't happen. The magic doesn't happen. And why is that? Did I forget something important? Okay, I guess I should go back to the doc that actually lets me access the debug log, the account that lets me access the debug log. Seriously, not found. What will Postman say about this? Huh. It is found here, so wondering what could be the problem. Postman is just, yeah, a rather old tool to test API requests. So it has this nice user interface to set up to try and query things from the API. So this is like the Coda API, right? This is the endpoint that allows reading data about columns from a given table or view from a given doc. You have this information somewhere here. Yeah, so this is the request you make. This is the response that you get. So this is a way to, yeah, actually work with APIs, make actual requests, responses, and examine what you get from them. I'm just curious why it's 404, why it didn't let me read the data. So maybe I'll make a new account. Yeah, so something's wrong with their API. No, nothing is blank. Everything's great. Everything works. It just, yeah, probably the restrictions behind the restriction settings for tokens are not quite working well, or I'm mistaken with what had to be submitted there. So the restrictions for the token to only work with a certain pack or to work with certain something. Here you have it. So these are, I can take this formula and put it here instead. And I don't need this, I don't need that. And whenever I create a new column, I kind of need to somehow trigger this formula again, right? it has to recalculate from the, not immediately though, because it will not work immediately, but once the edit gets into the snapshot, the API will finally just need to tweak the formula a little bit, or make it into an action or something. Eventually it should read it. Maybe there's also the fetcher time to live. Maybe it does not try to requery the requery from the same URL for 30 seconds or something. And yeah, the important part is that it works. It's a way to get more information about the structure of the doc, is to build a pack like this. And did we spend much time trying to build the pack? Not really. So I think it's a rather interesting capability to be able to code something like this. And yeah. Okay, I'm probably gonna either take a break for, I don't know, like 20 minutes or something, to have something to eat, and then continue with the merge interface, or I'll just continue with it on my own pace. Because what my next idea basically was to having these column IDs was to generate. So how I would go about this thing, I would generate a table and like we aren't here yet, but we did some black magic. We do this. Well, we went around this task in a different way than I originally thought. So what I would do is how I would populate this transposed table. I would basically create rows, right? And for that, I would probably update my pack formula to not just return the column IDs, but also the column names, right? let us return an array of objects. ID is the string and name is basically also a string. And let's not just push the item ID, but let's push the ID is item ID and name is name. Build the pack. Accept the breaking changes. Waited for, yeah, it's built successfully. So this thing, let's recalculate this thing. Yeah. These are now objects that each has an ID and a name. So we can column ID is current value ID. Column name is name. Did you get it? Bam. And I would probably use the same sort of black magic to take this row and update it with a given column from record A with a given column from record B. So let's make it an pro forma action to this row, modify rows. And let's say the property name, which we will then replace, and record B is HLP record merger record B name. Right now it populates names, right? But we already know our black magic. We have our action code. This is pretty much the same for all the rows, so it does not oh well, yeah, this row is, oh yeah, this row, so this is the same. We don't care about the location of the context. We don't really care. It's just, yeah, this row, this row, this row. So the code here is pretty much the same. The only thing that we need to change is the, so let's say this is the, let's put it somewhere in the templates. Let's make this a new table of templates. And we need to modify this row. You take record A and you read grid ID, column ID, and the same here, grid ID, column ID. And the action we create here is populate button code value. The grid ID is the one from here. The column ID is the one from here. Parse Json, ref object. Oh, and all I have to do is add all. And the action is column 6. No, no, the location actually is also, the location also needs to be, in this context, the location also needs to be apparently updated. So this is the third parameter. The third parameter is probably gonna be, okay, this row's row ID. How do we get this row's row ID? This row plus this, split that by a slash and take the last. This is our row ID. So we have to replace the third parameter with this row ID, and this is not the row ID, this is the row UID. And bam, 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 bam. And this is how we populate a transposed table with some black magic out of the record A and record B. And if I swap them, and let's say I delete these things, it's just gonna, yeah, do it the other way around. And now that I have this interface for merging, I can pretty much construct yet another button with black magic to take whatever is in column A and insert it into the actual record A when the merge is done. So this is basically, we are not editing the record directly. We copied the values here. We are free to do whatever we wish with them, even maybe update or something. So replace, have that third column or whatever, and then have a button. Again, we can construct a button with black magic to upload whatever is in column A or whatever is in the resulting column of the merge back into object, back into row for the object A. So do you get it? So once you have get the idea, the rest is a little bit of art, just to add the remaining buttons. But the proof of concept is pretty much here. I'm hungry as hell. I'm happy that I never really got stuck, never met any obstacles throughout the way, so it all worked out pretty smoothly with the packs, with the transposed table eventually. I was able to show the different approaches to this thing. One last thing that I'm wondering is if I have a table of let's say tags, and this is a tag, and I have a column, well, something else, and it's a column with lookup. And it's a multi-select. And then again, for the merge action itself, I can code. Thank you. So let's say it's contacts and clients. We have some tags. Let's see if this populates this. Well, this populates this in input, but we can have something like record A and just read from record A, and it formats it nicely. And I'm wondering if it's a number. Is it a number? If I make it a number. No, it will not. It will not format it to the right, but whatever. What's important is the value here is actually a number and not a text. So you can even, again, you can even look into this. So record B. This is a type of number. So these are plain text, as evident by it's an array of characters. It's an array of characters. This is an actual number. And this is a reference to, actually it only exposes the first one. So out of contacts and clients, it only exposed the clients, or the first one or the second one. I don't remember actually. I think the last one. It picks the last one or something, but not the whole array of things. Yeah, and then we can, for the merge itself, we can have the code. Let's say we have the record C. How do we check? Oh, just a sec. Okay. Last. There's yet another trick. Wait, Khalid, how did you figure out? Oh, were you reading my lips and also understand Ukrainian, or did I forget to turn off my mic, or I just thought, or I just said that I was going to have a lunch. I don't know, some soup. I think chicken broth soup or something. My fiance made earlier today. She's a bit sick, so she made some soup for herself. There is a trick. I used it yesterday, but I don't remember the exact. How do you do this exactly? So how do we check whether the item is actually not the item, but a list of items? To check whether it's an item or a list of items, you need to try and run a function on a value. That Oh, no count. Actually, yeah, I think I remembered. Count is not gonna work because this here is a multi-select, right? The value is actually a list of items. It's not just one item. But count is gonna work on text values or whatever values it returns once. So will the nth. So will the slice the splice. So the trick is, if I remember correctly, is to try and add something to it. No. Concatenate it with something. Because yesterday I found the exact thing. No, to splice the thing, start 1, delete 0, and insert whatever. How do you know it's a text? It's a single value. Let's add here something and let's copy a single value reference in there. So it's a single value, that's a multi-value. Oh. I guess it won't do it like this, but you get the idea. So this is, let's do it like this. So we turn off the multi-selection, and this is a single value, right? When it's a single value, it puts it takes the single value, right? Creates it into a reference, and then prepends the text. So splice works on it as if it was the text. So it splices it, it concatenates the text that we insert. Whatever. Like to the reference itself. And in the end we have the count of one item. But if it's a multi-select, it actually, the splice works by inserting text as item 1 of the array, and then and then whatever was here, so the single value or multiple values or whatever. And in the end the count is gonna be not 1 but 2. So one way to test if it's an array is that the count is actually more than 1, provided that it's not blank, right? And then we can work our merge items thing, like this row record, this row record C, modify rows. Oh well, this row modify rows record C is if is array, then we take list combine of record A, record B, and as a courtesy, what I do often is that I run unique and I run formula map current value is not blank, because if one of the lists is actually a blank value, not a list with 0 values but a blank value, it's gonna make a list that has blank, comma, and then whatever. So it's gonna use blank as an actual item of the list. So I filter for current value is not blank, and I also filter for unique because we only care about unique tags, right? Otherwise I take something like record A if blank, record B. And I forgot a closing. Oh no, but I have a habit of copy pasting the formula. So what did I forget? Why did it not work? if is array, then we do the list combine, not formula map, filter. Current value is not blank, unique. Copy. And yeah, Barbara Viat. We could also do the check. So if both are the same, if they are not the same, don't populate it from anything. Peru, this, and the 3 tags. And the result actually, the record C. Let's just read from record C, and you can see that, yeah, we have our resulting column taken from left, taken from right. And yeah, the merge items, we can actually do a better thing here, because it's not record A if blank record B, but it's if the values are the same, or if either is blank, then we take this. Otherwise, let's do it actually. Switch if. Record A is blank, or record, actually no, record A equals record B, then we take either. Otherwise, record A if blank, record B. If blank. Yeah, let's say we have Barbara, and Barbara results in Barbara. We have a number in record. We have a number in record A, but not record B. We have a number. We have an email. We have a zip. We have South Jola. We have Peru and Ukraine. It should have. Is not record B, then we gonna have that. Please merge. Okay, dinner is ready. So, or lunch or whatever it is at 6 p.m. I didn't have dinner, but I had breakfast at 11:30 a.m. So, if record A is not equal to if it's okay, I guess if this row record A is blank, then we take record B is blank and record B is not blank, we take record B. If record A isn't, well, it's doable. I just don't have mental capacity anymore, I think. So this is please merge. This is the contacts. These are all the tags together. So if it's an array, already we can simply combine things together into a yet another array. So tags, we merge the tags instead of picking either column A or column B. And what does button do? Oh yeah, it populates that. And well, this is just, yeah, an empty column that I did nothing with it. So yeah, this, let's go through it one more time. This. Oh yeah, okay. Need to fix that thing, but I think you pretty much got the idea. And it actually is simpler to go this way with the transposed table, because we only have one thing to care about. It's simpler than doing an action here, right? The action that we did here, the constructed action. So actually, this approach pretty much wins over this approach that we started initially. I thought this would be easier, but actually in the end, this one works better. Okay, at my pace, I'll finish this thing and publish it as a template. Most likely, I don't know if this will use the pack, if I can share it with someone and they will ultimately use the pack that I made to get the column IDs or something. But this yeah, this has been the study of how to build a object merger. So the last thing that's left to do is to take these merge results and put it back into record A. So no, in the end, we still need that action, right? To take the values and put them back into the object. But it should be easier, you know why? Because we don't have to reference the exact rows from here. We can then run the filter by column ID. So we make a function that formula maps over this list and then updates, makes the modifier rows, right? But it reads the value from column C of the particular. Actually, I don't want to leave you hanging, so I'm wondering if I can finish this. So the pair template, we I need the formula that reads transposed table filter column ID equals, well, some column ID merge result first merge result. Take this, put it here, modify rows. We have the grid and column, and we modify from the transposed table filter column ID equals, and we insert the same column ID that we just had there, and the rest is the same. And modify rows declaration is this, and instead of this template, we now use we use this. Um, what's wrong with it again? Mm-hmm. Something's wrong with the formula modify rows. Oh, I guess I just, yeah, I messed up something with the... take this, insert it, insert this thing there. Oh yeah, this is not the current. So yeah, column ID split is now object. So current value with name current column ID, right? That's why it's cursed. So now we can do the parse Json and the ref object object. And now we can have the result of this. Let's say we have, yeah, the Peru, Ukraine. We take this and ideally this button, yeah, updated the A, the record A, with whatever is coming back from our merge interface. So all that's left is, yeah, to make this nicer. Another thing is to, yeah, come up with the way to update the references as well. I don't think it's gonna be automated, but yeah, well, search for duplicates. Automatically merge is doable. Not sure if I think it's doable, but then again, whatever we build could be just retrofitted. We don't have to do this, and we pretty much did it. It just, yeah, needs some beautification, and I'm done. And this is gonna be shared with my November patrons. So yeah, I'm stopping my stream. My soup is ready, and soup's on, how they say. So yeah, see you later. Bye.